I'm Cape Joel, and this is Comic Smack, your weekly, daily, all the time, anytime comic book show where I give you your fix of everything you need to know from the world of comic books and superheroes. And on today's show, we're taking a closer look at Doomsday Clock issue number 2. What lengths will Ozymandias go to try and save his Earth and find Dr. Manhattan? Well, let's hop on in together and find out, shall we? Alrighty then, so as you'll recall in the previous issue, Rorschach had helped 2 inmates, Marionette and Mime, escape from prison. Why are these 2 so important to Adrian's plan of finding Dr. Manhattan? Well, as he explains, the 2 had been on a crazy natural-born killer's crime spree, robbing banks, killing people, general mayhem, that sort of thing, and their rampage was only stopped by the intervention of Dr. Manhattan early on in his career, and you can tell it's early on because he's wearing briefs to cover up his big blue dong. Now, obviously, Dr. Manhattan has no problem vaporizing criminals for much smaller offenses than what these 2 did, yet when he saw that Marionette was pregnant, he ended up sparing her life, and Adrian thinks that this is really important, that Marionette represents a particular moment in Dr. Manhattan's life and that she might be useful down the line. Now, our very unlikely foursome is ready to make trails. Ozymandias has gone out of his way to outfit Archie, Night Owl's old ship, to be able to make the jump to other dimensions. And I mean, really not a moment too soon either, as once they manage to break atmosphere, it seems that the bombs are dropped and the Watchmen universe is nuked. Does that mean we're not gonna be seeing Silk Spectre and Night Owl in this story now? It's a pretty darn harsh landing for everyone involved, and it's right around here we're reminded that while Ozymandias may have good intentions, he's not exactly a good person because he chains up Marionette and Mime, not wanting to have to look after them in this new world. This means he and Rorschach too are free to walk around modern-day Gotham City, a world they say is a lot like theirs in some ways and completely different in others. How so, you might be asking? Well, in a clever bit of writing behind them on television, they see commercials for a Dusk Detective movie marathon. Nathaniel Dusk, for those of you who don't know your comic history, was a detective character from the early 80s. He got crisised out of existence, but now he's clearly back not as a real person, but as a fictional character, and Adrian says that's more or less the case with the Watchmen as well. Adrian says people who may have been fictional in the Watchmen universe are real over here in the DC universe, and vice versa. The biggest difference, though, is the sheer amount of superpowered and costumed individuals that exist here in the DC universe. He and Rorschach too theorize that perhaps this is where Dr. Manhattan went, to more or less start over with a blank slate where he could learn from the mistakes of the past. Of course, they're still far from getting what they want or understanding what the rules of this new world are, and because of that, they decide to split up and seek who they believe to be the 2 smartest men in the world, Bruce Wayne and Lex Luthor. And hey, speaking of those 2, they're actually kind of at odds at the moment. You see, the Wayne Enterprises board of directors is threatening to sell off their assets to LexCorp. This is bad for a number of reasons, not the least of which meaning he could possibly lose the company that bears his family names, but it also means the books could very well get opened up onto what Bruce does at night. All this extra pressure at the office too means Bruce isn't home when Rorschach comes sniffing around the Batcave, which he finds actually pretty easily in a wonderfully silent scene. What is Rorschach's opinion of Batman so far? Well, he thinks he's a crazy person. No sane person would collect this many trophies. Believe it or not, Ozymandias doesn't fare much better with Lex. He comes to him all mysteriously talking about what he did in his own world, and Lex pretty much laughs in his face. Really, you tried to bring peace to your world via a giant space squid and you're surprised that it didn't work for that long? Oops. Well, geez, it looks like everyone is getting together right now. Could this situation possibly become any more dire? Oh, yes, it can, because a bullet rings out at that time, hitting both Lex and Adrian. Who would possibly want to shoot these 2? Who has a grudge against Ozymandias? Well, maybe a man who he killed. Yep, that's right, it's the comedian, everybody, seemingly back from the dead. So that was Doomsday Clock issue number 2, everybody, and it was nothing if not loaded with surprises. Much like the previous issue, the story is definitely more heavy on the Watchmen side than it is on the DC Universe side, but that's probably going to change now that they've officially crossed over. A lot of the joy of this issue is definitely getting to see the two different sets of characters size each other up and what their initial thoughts are. Rorschach, a character who's usually considered to be pretty crazy himself, thinks Batman is crazy, and Lex Luthor doesn't take Adrian very seriously. This issue also saw the return of some cool little newspaper inserts to help grow the world and the lore, much like the original Watchmen comic did. It's a nice touch, and I think it'll go very far. While perhaps not as mind-blowing as issue number 1 was, it's still very interesting, very compelling, and I am still most definitely on board to see where this goes from here. Overall, I would give it a very solid 8.5 out of 10. So that's Doomsday Clock, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, be sure to take a look at some of these other videos I've been working on. Then you can follow me on Twitter at CapeJoel so you always know what's coming out next. And as always, if you're feeling in a supportive mood, why not become a patron? Patrons get exclusive access to videos and content before anyone else, and they can do so for as little as $1 a month. In fact, this month I put up a Let's Play of the Telltale Batman games. So until next time, everyone, this has been CapeJoel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all again later. Bye-bye.